ISO 27001 Annex A 8.9 configuration management. This is about the configuration of systems and the support and the processes and controls that need to go in and around this. In the basic terms, you just need to document what your configuration management is, apply it, and then check that it's in place. But we will go through it in a little bit more detail. It builds on the previous Annex A 8.8 about vulnerability management. It was just a paragraph in there. This is putting more meat to the bones, right, about how we manage configurations on our environment. So what we're looking at from a definition point of view, configurations including security configurations of hardware, software, services and networks should be established, documented, implemented, monitored and reviewed, right? Keyword documented, right? So what are we looking at here? Again, a little bit of detail, a little bit of reading. I'm going to go through. You can catch the blog that's associated with this in the link, but let's go through the guidance on how you implement it. Document configuration management. Step one, document your configuration management. So my advice is starting out with configuration management is document it before you implement it if you can, right? I do realize that some of you are running some of this stuff already, right? And you're going to document it and then retrofit, right? Or you're going to retrofit your documentation to what you've done, right? I'm not here to judge. But my advice is set out your configuration documentation, your standards before you implement, then implement based on that. Work out what your secure configuration should be. Well, how do I do that? How do I do that, Stuart? Well, you're going to look at vendor advice, right? What is the vendor advising you in terms of the configuration of your systems? What variables are they saying for you to pay attention to that you need to configure? Look at industry best practice. What is industry saying about the configuration of these systems? What are technical experts in this field advising you that you need to do, whether internally or externally? And what are the needs that you have? What are your business needs that play into that, right? It isn't necessarily the case that the most securely configured system is the right approach for you if it stops you from operating your business. So there is a little bit of a collaboration that needs to be done. But start there, right? Start there. Understand what it is that good looks like and let's set that gold standard. We know when we purchase hardware and software, it comes with defaults, right? So it's designed for every use case. We want to turn those defaults off. We want to change those defaults where possible. They're going to be default passwords. They're going to be default usernames. We're not going to reuse those usernames and we're not going to be using those default passwords. Anybody can Google it. This system, default username, default password, bang, right? I mean, it's easy work. So you're going to be changing that as part of your configuration management. It is going to be written in, and it is written into your policy that we change those before we release them into the wild, before we put them into production, and you're going to make sure that that is the case. To document it, you're going to try and get your hand on vendor or industry templates. Now, you're going to say to me, why can't I provide you templates? Because there will be more templates than there are, well, technologies that are out there in existence, from every operating system to every version of operating system to every technical implementation, every version of technical hardware. It is impossible and pointless for me to provide you with configuration management gold standard best practice for every variation of everything that exists, especially at the price point that I'm doing it, right? Because I don't know who you are and I don't know what you've got. But you are going to look to the industry, you're going to look to the vendor, you're going to be looking at your peers, you're going to be looking at your technical experts and saying, guys, we need some templates about how we document this configuration management, the configuration, the build documents, as some people call them. How do we actually document that? As part of that, we're going to be looking at things like clock management and clock synchronization, right? I'd just throw that in there because, you know, one of the things that they do like to see at audit is that if reports and logs are being generated, that they're all on the same timestamp, and you've got to identify how you implement that and then make sure that if your configurations are required as part of that configuration is in your configuration standard, right? Are you pointing to a time server somewhere? If so, what is it and where is it? So make sure your build documents include that. So we're looking at documenting it appropriate to you, to the gold standard, so that you can then give that document to somebody and say, this is our standard build, our standard configuration, and somebody can take that and check the systems that you've got against that, which we'll come to in a minute. We're going to look at the configuration changes. So for changes, right, you've got change management process. Follow your change management process. You have to follow your change management process. You will have records of configuration changes, right? So it isn't just a case of we made a change and changed the configuration. What did you change? If you're changing your configuration documentation, there will be version control built in and baked in. We've been through this, we do this, it's standard. It's how we operate, having version control tables that explain the changes. And as part of your change management process, recording what those changes are and documenting those. Okay, you're going to need to know that if you have to back that change out, to risk assess that change. Many reasons why you need it, and you're going to absolutely make sure that you do that. Then we come to configuration monitoring and review. Once your configuration is in place, there are going to be points in time when it gets reviewed and monitored and audited, without your drive, right? You didn't ask for it. So at external audit, they're going to look, right? Clients are going to come in and audit you. They're going to look. Pen test will come and test you and it will look, right? You need to bake in a process of what is your process operationally, day to day, week by week, month by month, about how you are reviewing and monitoring configurations to make sure that the configurations match your configuration standard and haven't deviated from it. Then you need to look at how you can manage that deviation through change control, through incident management, whatever the process may be, continual improvement, risk management. How is it that if a configuration is a mismatch between the standard that you set and what is actually implemented, how are you going to take control of that, the corrective action that you're going to follow off of the back of that? Let me give you really high level again in the blog. Let me give you the steps, high level, to meet the requirements and pass the audit of this control. Have effective asset management. Know what assets you've got. Document configuration standards. Configure assets appropriately before use. Monitor your configurations. Review your configurations. Take action where configurations do not match the templates and the standards that you have set. Implement controls proportionate to the risk. Keep records. And test the controls that you have to make sure that they are working. What are the things that people get wrong as a rule, right? What are the top things that people get wrong? The number one here is leaving configuration defaults in place. Leaving systems with passwords and usernames that are default. Guest, blank, password. Admin, password, right? Get rid of system defaults. They're easy to guess, they're easy to know. They will trip you up come any individual audit. Any configuration details, ports that are open by default, services that are enabled by default, right? These are standard things. Your technical IT teams know this. They will be on top of this, but make sure that that is in, because I have seen it and we have seen it and auditors have seen it, that those defaults are in place. The second biggest mistake is you never check your configurations, right? You did it, you documented your configuration because you thought the standard needed it, but you didn't know whether or not that represented reality. You didn't monitor it and you didn't review it, and therefore you didn't check it. So you don't actually know whether or not your configurations meet the gold standard that you set in your templates, or you do at one point in time, a year ago, a couple of years ago, but you haven't checked it. So you're not going through and checking that, right? You're not making sure that those configurations are still up to date with any configuration changes that you've made, and to make sure that those configuration changes are being applied across the board and as appropriate as they may need be. So configuration management is things that you're going to be doing. As with everything in the standard, it is going to require documentation and evidences that you've done it. And as with everything else in the standard, you're reliant on other controls that we've already touched on, from the vulnerability management all the way through the risk management, continual improvement, corrective action that we've already covered. But this is the structure of the Annex A 8.9. So read the blog, go through the blog, check out the detail, but you're going to be absolutely golden. My name is Stuart Barker, the ISO 27001 Ninja. And until the next Annex A technical control tutorial, peace out.